Right. What's going on, everybody? We're here jumping on. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the market and what's happening with interest rates, the current situation with the builders are looking at, and just a little bit about kind of the overall market. I've got a couple things I want to actually talk about here today and just kind of share some interesting information that I've been looking at for these different things. So I'm going to get started here in just a second, talk a little bit about a couple different topics. We'll do a little live Q&A along the way. So if anybody's got questions, make sure to just drop a comment in the box, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that come up. So let's go ahead and pull this up here and we're going to jump into this. So I've been releasing a couple of videos on my channel recently where I've been talking a lot about where's the market headed? Is it going up? Is it going down? Why is it going to crash? Why is it not going to crash? I just released a video a couple of days ago talking about a couple of reasons why the market could crash. And then I'm going to be talking about in my next video that's coming out this weekend, we'll be talking about 3 reasons why the market is not going to crash. So what we're seeing so far in the market is we're seeing that the number of listings has risen substantially. I think as of today, we're sitting somewhere around 7,700 listings across the entire MLS, which is quite a big jump. Looking back to May 1st, so that'd be just almost 2 months ago now, we were sitting at 2,500 listings. So in 60 days, so we're actually at 7,800 listings as of today. So with that many listings on the market, we're seeing homes are sitting for a lot longer. Days on market is longer. I've personally got 2 listings that if we had sold them 3 months ago, they would have gone above the asking price and been sold in 2 or 3 days. Right now, they've both been sitting on the market for 3 to 4 weeks. So it's a pretty drastic change with how that's turned around. But I think it's something that is going to continue to happen. I think as we go into the summer months, we're going to continue to see days on market go up. We're going to see inventory continue to go up, and we'll see that number continue to stretch. Now, the interesting thing is I was actually looking at data from back in 2019, 2018, 2017, and the number of listings that we had during those years fluctuated somewhere between 7,500 and 10,000 listings. So we're actually kind of almost at normal levels as of right now. Sitting at 7,800, we're actually, in that normal range of where we usually are when the market is not crazy busy, right? So this is totally normal. Sitting on the market for 3 to 4, 5, 6 weeks is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just because everybody over the last 2.5 years has been so used to home selling within a couple of days of being listed that people are starting to freak out now. And it's causing a lot of pandemonium kind of in the sellers, with a lot of sellers out there because they're starting to worry, hey, is my home going to sell? Is it overpriced? All of that. So we are seeing prices come down pretty substantially from where they were. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's a big price drop, big crash or anything coming. But we did see prices get pushed so high during the month of February, March, and April. We saw prices. It's almost like a rubber band. I wish I had a rubber band here to kind of show you guys what's in my mind, but it's almost like the rubber band got stretched up because prices were so inflated because of buyer demand and low inventory. And now that rubber band has snapped back down and it's actually, kind of flattened out, right? So it doesn't mean that it's necessarily being pushed down where we have a price, massive price drop across the market or anything like that. It's just that it's no longer being pushed up like it was a couple months ago. So that's the one thing that's really interesting. Now, I've also got another video coming out where I'm talking a little bit about where the market's headed and what's going to happen. And that basically it's just a giant disclaimer, to be honest with you guys. I'll just save you the time from watching the video, I guess. But it's basically just a disclaimer saying, hey, look, nobody really knows where the market's going. The federal government, inflation's still out of control. They're still expecting to raise rates. Interest rates right now for an A+ borrower is somewhere between like 6.25% to 6.5%. So it's crazy high. I think we could see 7% by the end of August, end of September. I think 7% is pretty realistic. We might even go as high as 7.5%, 8%. That'd be pretty crazy. That would definitely put a hamper on things, and prices would almost guaranteed have to come down at least 10 to 20% if that did happen. Now, my personal belief, I think we might see interest rates come down. Interest rates go up to, 7%, maybe low 7% for a little bit, when there's peak fear in the market. But overall, I think we're going to come back down And somewhere in this like 6 to 7% range is going to be pretty typical for what we see over the next little bit. Now, that being said, the whole disclaimer that I'm making is like, look, nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just some guy who lives here in Utah who loves to make videos about real estate and what it's like to live here and all that stuff. But I don't know where the market's going, right? Nobody's got that crystal ball. If I had that crystal ball, I would tell you, hey, sell everything right now or buy everything you can because prices are going up or down next year. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. So the thing I keep telling people is like, hey, if you're a buyer in this market, you want to be in a position where you are purchasing for the long term, right? You need to be planning to hold that home for at least 3, 4, 5 years at the very minimum in order to be in a position where you're not going to be underwater in it in 6 to 12 months when you have to sell it. So if you're only planning on living here for a couple of years, it may not be the best idea to purchase right now, especially with interest rates where they're at. But if you're planning to hold on to the home or it's going to become a rental property at some point, then I still think it could make sense to purchase as long as everything else lines up, right? As long as you've got, you can qualify for the home, you've got a down payment, you need a place to live, you got a family, all that stuff. I mean, if it's the right situation, then of course it would make sense to purchase still. If you're a seller in this market, again, it's kind of just depends on your situation. If you're just, let's say you own a second home or something, and you're thinking, hey, should I cash out? Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on if you need to cash out. I don't think that prices are going to come down very substantially over the grand scheme of things. I mean, if prices came down, let's say 10, 15, even 20%, that really only takes us back to pricing that we saw in last year, right? So that brings us back to 2021 prices, which people are still saying, hey, that's actually really expensive. So it doesn't really make that, that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things as far as the overall market prices. So if you're a seller, I don't know. It depends. If you have to sell for one reason or another, then sure, go ahead and sell right now and just go through the couple weeks or, potentially month or two that you're going to be on the market. If you don't have to sell, then maybe, hang on. Alex, I see your question here. We're going to jump into that here in just a sec. I just want to finish this last point and then I'll answer your question here. And the last thing I wanted to just talk about real quick is if you're an investor, right? If you're an investor in this market, I've been looking at investment properties lately. I've seen next to nothing, out there that even makes sense. I'm looking at condos, townhomes, single family homes, multifamily, commercial, looking at every type of property. And there's just nothing out there that really makes sense, especially because interest rates are still high and prices have not yet come down. So because of that, we're actually seeing rents increase pretty substantially. So I think that could change in the next 12 to 24 months. But as of right now, rents are climbing, but they're not quite at the level that we need them to be in order to have these investments make sense, right? A lot of people are buying these investments as just a place to store some cash and kind of put the cash aside and then just basically count on that appreciation of the property. So, if you're an investor in this market, I would say just be patient. Honestly, there's not a ton of deals out there. I just looked at one today. I think it's actually a pretty decent deal. So I'm going to make an offer on it. We'll see if it works out. But it's a total rehab. It's not a rental property or anything. It's going to be a full, remodel and sell it type thing. So just be patient. If you're an investor in this market, I think waiting 3 to 6 months, there's really no downside for that. I think you're going to be, come out pretty safe in the grand scheme of things. And what I mean by that is we're at a point in the market where I think the downside risk is significantly higher than the upside risk, right? If you go purchase a property today and say, hey, I'm going to hold on to it for 6 months, 12 months, maybe even 2 years, there's probably not going to be a lot of growth or appreciation in those 2 years. So you really have to get a really good deal when you purchase now to, protect that downside risk. Because I think it's more likely that those prices could come down rather than the prices going up, either for the appreciation of the property or just the overall income that it's going to bring in. So Alex, your question, do you think when the new business structure is built, will house prices increase around that area? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by the point. I've never heard it called that. Are you talking about I've never heard of that, honestly, but doing a quick little Google search here, I do see some information about it. I'll have to figure out where this is at. I definitely think there's going to be, okay. Yeah. So it is the prison. It is the prison site. I didn't know that it was being called the point, but that definitely makes sense. Yeah. I think that's going to be something that really drives the market. I don't remember how big that piece of land is just off the top of my head. I want to say it's like 600 acres, give or take. So a really big piece of land. that's going to be developed. They're going to be doing open spaces, parks, office, commercial, houses. They're going to be doing everything there in that area. So there's going to be a little bit of everything. Of course, a lot of office. Yeah. So it's 600 acres, Alex. I think that's going to drive up prices in that general vicinity, especially because a large portion of that, I believe, is going to end up being like office space, right? That whole corridor from Draper all the way down to Provo along that I-15 corridor, there's office space, there's office buildings, every block, it seems like. So I think there's going to be a lot of office in that area, and people, as Salt Lake continues to get more and more busy, as traffic gets worse, as it gets harder to commute around town, I think people are going to be willing to pay a premium to live in those areas, to be close to those amenities, right? They want to be close to their office. They want to be close to the park or the mountain bike ring, a park or whatever. They want to be close to all these different things that are, not going to be an hour's drive away. So I do think we'll see a lot of growth in that area. Home prices, Alex, you said home prices are starting to decline. Yes, they are. Definitely. We just talked about that a little bit. But I do think that over the long term, Draper, Sandy, South Jordan, Bluffdale, I think honestly, those are probably some of the safest places you can invest at this point in time. Joe, you've got a question here. Any hope for first-time buyers? Yeah, man, that's tough. I mean, if you're in a position where, it's your first time, I help a lot of people who are first-time home buyers, and we go through the process and it's no big deal. I think maybe what I don't know what you're saying here, but if you're a first-time home buyer, maybe you don't have a huge amount for a down payment or anything like that. It can be difficult, right? I've been telling people, hey, if you're buying in this market, it's probably going to come down to just kind of lowering your expectations of what you're going to get. Instead of buying that $800,000 house, you're buying a $650,000 house. Instead of buying the $650,000 house, you're buying a $500,000 house. Instead of the $500,000 starter home, you're now looking at condos or townhomes. And I think that's just going to be the reality of where we're at least for the next year or two. So I don't see that that's going to be something that's going to change. Unfortunately, I think that's just the way it is, at least for right now. So there's not a ton of hope there unless you've got, really good credit. You've got the down payment, you've got all that stuff lined up and ready to go. I think that could be a scenario where, it still makes sense to purchase if you're a first-time home buyer. Alex, thanks for tuning in here. Appreciate your insight on the point. Now I know what the name is. So next thing I want to talk about here, and again, guys, if you have questions, make sure to drop it in the comment box. I'll be answering questions here as we go. And if you're thinking about making a move here, reach out to me. As always, you can call, text, or email me anytime. I love helping people. My information will be in the description box below, so you just reach out there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. Let me come back over here and show. Let's see, here we go. So the next thing I want to talk about is builder issues. So we've seen that builders are in a position where if anybody's been looking at new construction lately, builders are coming back. They're offering a ton of incentives. They're reaching out to agents saying, hey, we've got inventory, we've got homes, we need to sell these homes, which is kind of crazy because probably 3 to 6 months ago, if you walked into a builder's office, they'd say, we don't have anything available. We're going to be, sold out for the next 9, 12, 18 months without any new inventory coming to the market. And that was kind of just, that was the way it was. So builders have really changed their tune. They're now paying bigger commissions to real estate agents to try and get these realtors to, go in there and sell their properties. They're offering incentives to the buyers, paying 1%, 2%, 3% in closing costs. They're doing massive price drops on what they have. And I think it's because prices just got so inflated, right? So if you're a builder, you're looking at this past situation. If you're a builder and you bought land, 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever, a lot of times in these big developments, they can take 2, 3, 4 years to get fully built out. So if you purchase this land, 12 months ago, even 2+ years ago, you're probably sitting on a ton of equity based on where that land was valued at that time, right? So if you bought land back in 2020, you were thinking, okay, cool, I can sell this single family home for, let's say $600,000. Well, now that the market's gone up, that home is selling for $800,000, and the builder is just collecting that whole entire profit from that amount. So although that $800,000 has now come down, let's say they're selling for $750,000, $725,000, whatever, they're still way ahead because they were only planning on, getting $600,000 for the house when they first initially bought that land. So although we are seeing, increased costs of labor and supplies, there's still supply chain issues and whatnot. We are seeing that builders are starting to drop their prices. I think that for any builders who are out there, I found actually that a lot of builders, especially the local guys here in Utah, are actually pretty conservative. There's a big builder, Ivory Homes, who actually pays cash for all of their properties. And they have like no debt. They basically finance everything themselves. They pay cash for everything. And they basically have just done that because it protects their downside risk, right? If the market totally crashes, they can just weather it out. They just let the land sit there, whatever. Hey, we'll build on it in 5 years when the market turns back around. So a lot of builders here, especially the local ones, are pretty conservative with that. But I think they're going to do okay. They're still going to come out way ahead and still make a lot of profit. Even though the growth numbers are going to slow down, they're still going to be making a ton of profit. I'm also I was talking to a builder. I'm actually working on a land deal for a builder right now. And the builder basically came to me this morning and just said, hey, if we put this deal together like a month ago or 2 months ago, we'd be able to pay this full price. But he came to me today and said, we're probably going to have to ask for 5 to 10% off of this purchase price just because the market's shifting. And we have to add a little bit more margin in there to make sure that we're going to come out okay on the numbers that we're projecting for this property. So I look at that and I say, okay, well, if builders are starting to expect that prices are going to decline, they're probably in a better position than myself or the next realtor or whatever, because they're building hundreds of homes here in our market. They have a really good grasp on what land is selling for. They have a good grasp on what homes are selling for, how much traffic they're getting, how much interest they're getting, how many contracts they have, how many contracts get canceled. They've got a really good feel on the market. So if they're expecting prices to come down, I think everybody's kind of starting to feel that. And they're saying, hey, we need to be a little bit more conservative here and make sure that we're protecting ourselves from that downside risk. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with builders. I would honestly say, if you find a builder who says, hey, we're going to have inventory in 9, 12, 16 months, something like that, it might be worth, kind of locking in here in the next couple of months. I wouldn't say go out and do it right now because I still think the price drop has yet to come. But I do think that, potentially looking at new build, over the next couple of months could be something that might be worth your time if you're in the market looking for something and you're okay with that timeline. So that's the second thing I wanted to talk about here. Let's jump in and see what questions we have. So we got a question here from KD. Thanks for the information. Always helpful to hear the insight in different housing market. Yeah, so not a question, but yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is how long rates will stay high. Like I said, I talked about this a little bit earlier on in the video, how long I think rates will stay high. I think we could see 7% interest rate by, the end of summer. We might even climb like 7.5, 7, maybe even upwards of 8%, going into the end of the year. It just depends on how the next couple months play out. But I do think that rates will eventually come back down. And within, I'd say probably 2.5 to 3 years, I do expect to see interest rates back down in the 4 to 5% range. I do think actually what's going to happen is we're going to overcorrect on what's happening right now, and it's going to cool off the market so much that a lot of people, they're basically going to force everything into a recession and then have to stir it up again, right? And say, okay, we're bringing rates back down. And it's going to be kind of almost like a rubber band effect where it's just up and down with rates. And I think it's going to, they're going to rise really quickly like they have, and they're also going to drop pretty quickly. I could be totally wrong, right? This is just kind of my own personal opinion from what I've seen in the market and my own views on what, the research I've done. But I do think they'll come back down to like the high 4% range, maybe 5% range in the next 2 to 3 years. I think a big part of that's also going to be the presidential election. I think the election is going to have a big role in what interest rates do. Of course, whether, you like it or not, what happens with the election is something that's going to drastically determine what happens with the economy. So I think leading up to the election, I think we could see rates drop because of that. Even going after the election, depending on what happens, they could drop even further. So that'll be interesting to watch. All right. Jamin in Dallas. What's up, guys? How do I feel about a seller credit being the market shifting? Do you believe it's more of a reasonable ask? And are we going to see it more common again? Yeah, absolutely. So the last two listings that I sold, we actually did end up offering a credit. We offered, one of them was pretty substantial. It was a $1.5 million home, but it needed a new roof. So we actually ended up giving the buyers, they were like, hey, we're going to back out unless we can get this new roof. We actually ended up giving them the $30,000 credit for the new roof, just because my guys just wanted to be done with it. And then also on the second deal, we ended up giving these guys about $3,000 on a brand new home. The home was only 6 months old. It was built, it just finished in January, but there's a couple things that just need to be fixed. Buyer's really concerned about it. Seller just wanted to be done with it. So we actually offered up to $3,000 for the credit. Now, the last couple of buyers I've done, here in the last month or so, we've negotiated inspection repairs significantly easier. And in a lot of cases, I'd say probably half of the cases out of the, 5 or 6 deals we've done recently, for buyers, we're actually seeing that we're negotiating, below the asking price, which is pretty surprising. And that's, I think, actually a question that Joe had, who said, definitely not a buyer's market, but have you seen offers accepted under asking price? Yeah, absolutely. Over the past month or so, we've seen quite a few homes selling for under the asking price. And I think that we're going to continue to see that. I think we'll continue to see credits. I think it's going to be a lot easier. I mean, even on the listings that I've got right now, when buyers call in, and agents start negotiating, they start saying, hey, we're interested, but we're going to have to come in 10,000 under your price or 15,000 under your price, which is just kind of crazy because 6 months ago that would not have happened, right? If you said that, you'd say, yeah, get lost, or we're never selling to you. But now that's like kind of the reality when you've only got, when you're only getting a couple showings per week and you don't have any offers on the table, that's kind of just the reality of it. So I do think that if you're a buyer in this market, negotiate hard, be a little bit patient. Don't be afraid to ask for repairs. If there's repairs on the property or you want a credit or something, go ahead, beat up the seller again on it. I think there's a good chance a lot of sellers will just take it just because they want to get through it. They just want to be done with it. And if they have to give up, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 now, it's probably better for them. And, I've been telling my sellers the same thing. Honestly, it might be better to just pass, give this credit to the buyer if they're asking for it, rather than go back to the market, hopefully get another offer. If you don't, then you got to drop prices again. It just kind of becomes this big problem, right? That you don't really want to face. So sometimes you just kind of have to cut your losses, give the credit, and move on. So yeah, thank you guys for the question. One thing I want to talk about here, another thing I'm going to jump in here with some thoughts that I was thinking about is I've actually got a really cool video that's coming out probably next week, maybe like Monday or Tuesday or towards the end of the week. I'm not sure exactly when it will come out, but it's going to be an awesome video about 3 major developments that are happening here in Salt Lake in the area. And they're going to be very controversial topics. These are things that people are, really upset about. Other people are really happy about. It's kind of crazy. So it's going to be a really interesting video. It's something totally different than what I've ever done on the channel here before. So I hope you guys will subscribe to the channel so you can make sure to stay up to date when that video comes out. I'd love to get your feedback on it and see what you guys think about kind of a different style of video for something like that. So make sure to subscribe. Like I said, 3 major developments that are happening here in Salt Lake. I'm just talking about them, give you the pros and cons, kind of a little bit of my own personal opinion on some of the items. But yeah, definitely a very controversial topic here. And lastly, I want to talk about some of the hot areas that we're seeing here in Utah. So I'm going to jump in here, share my screen, and talk a little bit about where we're seeing people move to, what the hot areas are. And then if anybody's got questions, feel free to jump in and ask. This will be a great time to, ask questions about areas. Or if you have questions about what city you should live in, pros and cons, anything like that, now would be a good time to do that. So let me go ahead and do this, share my screen. All right. So let me go ahead and share that. And jump over here. All right, so you guys should be able to see my screen. Let me come over here, see if there's any comments that come in. So I want to talk a little bit about what areas are really hot right now. So the areas that we're seeing a ton of people move to still is going to be Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain, Lehigh, and American Fork. This whole area right here is extremely popular right now, and for good reason, right? It's a great place to live. Especially out here in Saratoga Springs, a lot of people looking in this area. Saratoga Springs has just grown like crazy. You can see how much farmland is still here compared to how many houses. If you just take a look at how this compares, right? There's like big circle here, and then how many houses over here? There's got to be at least 100 houses, probably 200 houses. And so you can, look at this and just say, okay, well, there's another, 200 to 200 houses here, 200 there, 200 there, 200 there. There's going to be thousands of homes that fill into this space here. There's an LDS temple going in right here. It's just being built. So That's kind of interesting. This looks like Pac-Man. That's kind of cool. And then there's also a ton of houses going in right here. I mean, they're just throwing them up. You can see all these roads here that are being built. And yeah, it's just blowing up like crazy. As you move further south, there's going to be a lot of development in this area here. And further down here in like the Fox Hollow area, you're going to have a lot of development continue to happen. You can already see they've got a lot of roads in here. And this satellite image is probably a little bit outdated, but you know, there's just gonna be a ton of houses going in here. So the great thing about Saratoga Springs is that you get a mountain view, you get a lake view, and you get a city view. So if you're up here, you can't quite see it on the map here, but this actually sits up on a hillside. So the cool thing about it is if you're here in Saratoga Springs, you can actually be looking out over the lake and over the city and looking at the mountains. So you get really cool views. If you want to see exactly what I'm talking about, go look at my Saratoga Springs video. There's a lot of really helpful information about Saratoga Springs. In that video, I show you what the views look like, and it'll just blow you away. It's a great area. It's super diverse. It's really close to everything you need, all the amenities. Super family friendly, low crime, great neighborhoods. Overall, just a great place to live. And that's why there's a ton of people moving here. So lots of people moving there. And then also a lot of people moving over here to Eagle Mountain area. So Eagle Mountain's kind of a close second. It's going to be very similar of a feel. And you can see there's still like a ton of land out here, right? There's like a lot of horse property out here in this particular area, but they've got the Ranches Golf Club, and there's a bunch of developments up in here as well. And it just continues to go. I mean, you can come out here to the city center area, and you can just see the growth that's happening out here, which is kind of crazy because just like 5 years ago, there's nothing out here, but it has grown pretty substantially as of lately. So Eagle Mountain, another great place. And then you've got Lehigh up here. If I just zoom out, let's do that. Out here in Lehigh, Lehigh's getting super built out, but there's still a lot of land right here, kind of on the northwest section. And then also down here on the south end, where it has traditionally just kind of been like farmland, but that farmland gets sold off. Here's a subdivision. Somebody was farming, and eventually they said, okay, time to come in here, put roads, and we're going to build houses. So I think that's going to continue to happen. We're going to see more and more developments pop up. And the great thing about Lehigh is, I mean, especially for a lot of people working here, there's a lot of business opportunities. If you're in tech, of course, that's the main driver of the economy right here. But if you are even in some of those secondary industries that kind of support that, there's a lot of opportunities here for finance, for healthcare, for anything like that. So that's the reason why a lot of people want to move there. Coming up here, you've got Salt Lake County. We talk a lot about Salt Lake County. There's a lot of people who are looking, excuse me, in the south end of Salt Lake County here. So like South Jordan, Sandy, Draper, Riverton, Bluffdale, Harriman, and then Daybreak, which is technically part of South Jordan, but kind of gets its own name because it's so big. There's a lot of people looking to live here. Again, nice neighborhoods, great schools, low crime. Houses are, going to be more expensive, of course, because of that. I mean, for a single family home, you're looking at least, probably like 600 for something decent. You're looking at least 600,000. But more realistically, probably like 7, 8, 900,000 for a house in one of these areas. And then of course it goes up to $1 million plus if you want something nicer. But yeah, great area overall. Again, a lot of the same, a lot of the same benefits that you get from living like down here in Lehigh, but just a little bit of a different feel. You're closer to the canyons, you're closer to the ski resorts, which is right here. You've got Alta, Snowbird, Brighton, and Solitude. So you've got Big Cottonwood Canyon here and Little Cottonwood Canyon here. So if you're a skier, you're a hiker, a climber, anything like that, you'll probably want access to these two canyons. And, you're closer to that. And then you're also closer to the city and the airport. So if you're going to be traveling for work, or you need to get to the airport, you got people coming into town, whatever, or you're working downtown, or you just like to hang out downtown, then that's going to be something that you're probably looking for as well, to be a little bit closer to that. And then coming up here, the last area I want to talk about is kind of this whole eastern bench here in Davis County. So you've got Farmington, you got Fruit Heights, Kaysville, and then Layton, which is Layton's pretty big, actually. It comes out all the way out here to the west, and then all the way up here on the east side. So again, really good area, low crime, safe neighborhoods, really nice houses. You can see there's not a ton of houses here. Like here in Centerville, it is so narrow because of the Great Salt Lake over here on this side. Sorry, guys, camera reset. Over here on the west side, you've got the Great Salt Lake, and then on the east side, you've got the Wasatch Mountains, right? So it's pretty narrow here, so there's not a ton of houses, but it kind of has that like old town feel, right? It has a very homey feel where you can tell that people have just lived there for the last 40 years and just never moved away, right? So that's one of the great things about it. And as you go up north into Farmington, you've got Lagoon, which is right here. That looks kind of crazy. I've never looked at this on a map, actually. But you've got the Lagoon amusement park right here. There's, of course, parking, all the rides and stuff. And then you've got, a bunch of open land. They've got RV parking and stuff there. So Farmington is great. A lot of people like living in Farmington and up here in Fruit Heights. You get really nice homes, and you also get great views. You have the mountains right in your backyard, but then you also get great views of, the Great Salt Lake and what's out here. So that's kind of cool to be able to see that. You can see Antelope Island, which is out here. And then, of course, the Great Salt Lake that extends over this way. So let me go ahead and flip that around. And that's the Great Salt Lake. And that's a little bit about this area. So let me jump over here, see if anybody's got questions. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can pull this up here. So Joe, you've got a question: Springville or Eagle Mountain, which has a better community feel? My worry is some of these new developments is that new residences are placed wherever they can build with no community planning. That is a really good question, and I think it's a very valid concern. It's tough to say. It really depends on the person, right? Some people are going to be more apt to looking at like Springville because it has a little bit of a smaller town feel. It's a little bit older, and it's a little bit more established, a little bit more mature. You're probably going to get a slightly different demographic as well. Springville, you're going to be like an older demographic. You're going to have a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s there, which is not to say there's not young people there. It just means that the demographic is going to trend to be a little bit older in those areas. But then in Eagle Mountain, it's going to trend to be much younger and be more family focused, a lot of young kids, things like that. Schools are going to be better in Eagle Mountain. So it really kind of just depends on what you're looking for. As far as the community feel, man, that's a tough question, because I think, the community feel, you could get that in either one. You're definitely going to get more of that kind of like close-knit community. At least I think so, in a city like Springville, as compared to Eagle Mountain. But that's not necessarily to say that Eagle Mountain's, bad, or that you're going to have like, rude neighbors or whatever. I think it's just going to be a little bit of a different feel. They are definitely, throwing up developments and packing in homes as tightly as they can, which is really interesting. But I think it's going to continue to go that route. I mean, there's a huge housing shortage, despite inventory being up, despite there being, more homes on the market now than there has been in the last 3 years. There is actually still a housing shortage. There's a lot of people who would love to get into homes, but are just not able to, right? They're not able to purchase. They're not able to make that move from where they're renting, or from staying with family, or staying with, a friend or whatever. They're not able to make that move into their own housing, unfortunately. So I do think they're going to continue to kind of pack those, pack the houses in and just build them as tight as they can. And they just kind of build them where they can, right? There's not as much planning that goes into it, I don't think. I mean, I still feel like they're being pretty conservative. Like the city is pretty restrictive on what they allow, what they don't allow. But there's definitely, I think the biggest threat is probably going to be infrastructure. There's going to be some big infrastructure issues out in Saratoga Springs. They're just behind schedule, to be totally frank. Out in Saratoga Springs, if that's a place you're looking to move, just be ready for like traffic. It's just getting more and more busy as more and more homes sell and get built in that area. There's more people moving into the area, and they haven't expanded or added really any roads in that area in the last 5 to 10 years, which is going to be a problem. A couple more years and it's going to be a massive problem. So do expect that traffic will get worse there. I think infrastructure probably has the biggest threat to it. So thank you, Joe, for your question. All right, guys. So if you have questions, let me know. I'm going to hang out here for a couple more minutes. If anybody's got questions, jump in. Ask me anything you want to know about Utah. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you're moving to Utah, or you already live here, you want to buy, you want to sell, you want to invest in real estate, reach out to me. My information is in the description box below. I've helped people move here from all across the world, and I've also helped people who live, just 2 streets over from me do the same exact thing. So if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest, I'd love to chat with you. Even in this market, if you just want to kind of get an assessment on like your situation and what makes the most sense for you, I'm a guy that will just tell it straight. You know, if you call me up and you say, hey, here's my situation, and I don't think it's the right decision for you to try and purchase in this market, I won't be afraid to tell you. You know, I'm not just here to sell real estate or anything like that. I'm here to actually, you know, just be honest and transparent about the market and really try to help people and, you know, go about it in a way that I feel is ethical and moral to act in, you know, your best interest. So even if you just want like an assessment on the market or what's happening, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to, you know, answer any questions that I can. All right, so let's see if we have any other comments. I'm not seeing anything come through. I'll hang out here for just another second. We've got some really cool videos coming out. I just hired on a new videographer and editor, so we're going to be upping the quality of the videos that we put out here on the channel. I hope everybody likes it. We're going to be putting a ton of time and effort into it moving forward, and so I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see what you know, what we can come up with. All right, we've got a question here. It looks like wingless Hornet, Provo or American Fork, first time buyer. Well, they're going to be pretty similar. If I pull up my map again here, let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. So coming in here, let me jump back over to this map. It's a little bit easier. So you've got Provo down here. Provo is obviously going to be really established. You've got an old part of Provo where you're going to have houses that are 100 years old. You're going to have new houses. You can get kind of just about anything that you want in Provo. The thing to know about Provo is you're going to be looking at, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. The thing to know about Provo is you're going to be in a very heavy LDS population, and you're also going to be in a very heavy student population because you've got BYU right here. You've got Brigham Young University. There's a lot of students right there. And then just up over here, you've also got Utah Valley University. So there's actually two universities here within like a couple miles of each other. So lots of students in the area, lots of young, you know, vibrant, you know, activities and entertainment and stuff like that. It's definitely a city, you know, that's seeing a lot of activity. But just something to kind of point out is like a lot of people might think about moving there and then realize, oh, wait, there's a lot of students here. So if you're on the younger side of the demographic, sure, that might be great. You might be able to meet people easier, meet a boyfriend, a girlfriend easier, you know, meet friends, whatever. You might be more into that. Whereas if you're like retiring, Provo could still be in a good area for you, but just be aware that there's going to be a lot of students in the area that you know, I think that's probably one of the biggest things to know as far as like, you know, putting down roots there. I think a lot of people underestimate that. Otherwise, Provo is a great area to live. You know, not a whole lot to say about it, you know, that's bad or anything. As far as American Fork, I personally would probably rather go American Fork. It's going to be a little bit more diverse here. You're closer to Lehigh, which I think is where like a lot of the entertainment options, the better restaurants, the better shopping, all of that's going to be better in Lehigh, in my opinion. You're also closer to Highland and Alpine and Cedar Hills, which is a very exclusive area. This is a very expensive area for houses. And I think that's going to kind of bleed over into American Fork. There's going to be people who are willing to pay a premium to live, you know, up here on the north end of American Fork to be close to Highland, right? Where you've got these other, you know, really expensive, nice, big houses. So I think there's going to be people willing to pay a premium. And I think that will really help with home prices there. And overall, I mean, in my own personal opinion, I think that's probably the better option. I really like American Fork, at least compared to Provo. Just personal preference. Again, not to say that one's better than the other necessarily. It just totally depends on your lifestyle and kind of what you're looking for. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Daniel, is Saratoga Springs mostly new builds? Yeah, Saratoga Springs, pretty much, other than just like some farmhouses here and there, almost the entire area is going to be new builds. Everything in that area was built within the last 15 to probably 20 years. Everything was built like since early 2000s in Saratoga Springs. So it's mostly new builds. Everything is, you know, relatively young, if you will. They're building a ton of houses out there. So it's really easy to find new construction in that area. And I think that's why it's one of the most popular areas, is because it's relatively close to like Lehigh, to Provo, to Salt Lake. It's not hard to get, from Saratoga Springs to those areas. So I think that makes it more enticing, for new construction and a lot of the building. You said mostly looking for a lake house without HOA. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit, to give me an idea of what what's your perspective of a lake house, right? If you're looking for something on the lake, I'm pretty sure that almost every community on the lake, excuse me, is every community on the lake is going to have a HOA. So if we zoom in here on Saratoga Springs, let me share my screen here again. Hey, thanks for watching, Wingless Hornet. Appreciate it. Let me go ahead and share my screen again, and show you here in Saratoga Springs. So you've got, let me use this map. It's probably a little bit better. You've got Talons Cove Golf Club right here. This kind of sits on the east side of Redwood Road. So this 68 right here, this is going to be Redwood Road, which takes you all the way down kind of on this west side of the lake, goes all the way down. And you can see all these roads and stuff where they've got houses. Now, I'm sure I'd have to go in and check, but I'm almost certain that all of these neighborhoods that are right here along the lake are going to have HOAs. I know for sure these ones by the golf club do. Those ones definitely have an HOA. These ones, I'm not sure. They may just have an HOA that covers the, usually it's like road maintenance where they come in and plow the roads and stuff, because the city has not taken that on yet. So a lot of these do have HOAs, but they're not the restrictive HOAs where they say, hey, you can't do this, can't do that. It's really just a community HOA to pay for that snow removal. So that'd be something you could look at. Let me jump back here, see if I don't see your question expanding on that. But yeah, if you want a lake house without an HOA, if you want to be on that east side of Redwood Road, then definitely you're going to want to look at further on the south end. I think that's going to be a better option. Or if you're looking, if you're okay, if you just want to be able to look at the lake and you don't need to be right next to it, then I'd say go up into the hills, and you'll definitely find a lot of areas that don't have HOAs up there. So that could be something that would really work for you. All right, guys. Any other questions? Questions? Ask a question if you got one. Now's your chance to be on the big screen. Let's see if any comments come through. Yeah, I think we answered just about everything here. So I'll say it just once more, guys. If you're thinking about making a move here, or you already live here, reach out to me. My information is in the description box below. Reach out. I'm happy to give you an assessment on kind of your situation, see if it makes sense to buy, see if it makes sense to sell, invest in real estate, whatever you're trying to do. We'll, I'll give you an honest opinion about that. And also make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We've got some really cool videos coming out. I think everybody's going to really like those. We're going to be putting out a lot more videos now that I've got this assistant helping me out. I think we're going to be able to put out hopefully about double the amount of videos that we're doing currently, which I think will be really cool. So I just see a couple of, questions or comments here. Yeah. Katie, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Jamin in Dallas, thanks for watching as well. Great information. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for being a supporter of the channel and stopping by. With all that said, guys, I'm not seeing any other questions pop through, so I'm going to sign off here. We're going to be doing these live streams a lot more. So definitely make sure to tune in for those. Daniel, first-time listener, great info. Hey, I really appreciate it, Daniel. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Happy to help however I can. You can find my information in the description box below, and we'll see you on future live streams. We'll probably end up doing these probably like every other week at the very least, maybe even get up to once a week. We'll do these live streams and jump on here and talk a little bit about the market, what's happening, different areas. And I might even get to the point where I'm actually bringing on guests and talking to them about the market, what they're seeing. And yeah, just share some different perspectives about what's going on. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you guys all in the next one.